the boss.
Yeah, I'll do it whether you like it or not. We'll just go through the agenda. First is FYI, we're updating the import icons, but it's a little different. It's not like a one-to-one change. So I thought I'd just walk you through that. Sorry, let me get situated. Hey, Harris.
Hello.
All right. So in a nutshell, we're moving away from the styling that we currently have. Jeremy from Foundations worked on updating these icons because he found that not just our team needed status icons, but other teams as well. And they really wanted to make a strong distinction between pipeline status and basically, in our case, import status. So let's fast forward. Where did I put this? Sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
skip 2 months of discussions.
Okay, here we go. So this is where we're heading. This isn't 100% final yet, but nonetheless, it's close. So some wording is changing. And the big change actually is this pending. So we're essentially combining scheduling and scheduled, and we're changing that to pending. So that's really the only difference. Would that be a big deal to update? I would assume not.
No, it's very easy. The main thing which we will lose, but I think we can live with that it is understanding with difference between scheduling and scheduled, we could understand like if this is at which step we fail it or we are stuck, like making the proper request to the backend, initiating the import, or the import was initiated successfully and the stuck is on the background job side. But this is pretty technical, and I don't feel like I don't miss that too much if we lose this one.
Yeah, one thing, we actually don't have scheduled state on the bulk import to begin with. We have like started and created and started. So there's no explicit on the backend side. There's no explicit scheduled state. So that's probably good.
So right after pending, we will immediately see importing as soon as it gets scheduled, right? I mean, as soon as we completed the request.
Well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can show pending if you receive created state.
Yeah, I'm speaking about UX state. I understand that the backend will respond something like started to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I think George is saying is that in the book import, started is the importing, and pending is created, not started.
Yeah.
There's
no one-to-one mapping between the two.
And that's okay. I think the user, I don't think that we need to like propagate exactly the status, whether it's scheduled or started. Like pending is a generic word that the users will always understand that this was triggered, like the button was pressed successfully and now, but it hasn't really started importing. Therefore, all the things that you do, like, you trigger the back job, you schedule it, you run it, start it, like that's all your problem on the back end or like on the behind the scenes. But for users, just pending, like hasn't started, but it's pending. And that's a fair thing to say. And all of those things can roll up into it. I'd say it's important for us to still be able to tell where it failed. So the logs should hopefully help someone look at seeing, well, it was scheduled, but it never started or whatever that is. But the user necessarily doesn't need to see that. This is, I think, nicer for the user. And it's more, and it's going to be able to be the same for all of our importers because they do have different statuses potentially.
Yeah, quick question, Amanda. Does this apply, like right now, I see this for group imports. Do we plan to unify this status update to other imports, project ones?
Yes, yes. Until we get rid of projects, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be nice to propagate all this
Yep.
to where it needs to go, to all the places.
All right,
This
cool.
looks very nice, Amanda. I have to say that.
Yeah. Also, I'm
I
happy
was
to
missing.
hear.
I was missing the colored text, but now, or the pills, but now that I see it again, it's growing on me.
Yeah.
Only because we have the icon in front of us started, because there was an option that it was hurting my eyes.
Yeah, also I'm happy about the answer that we will propagate it everywhere, because right now it is built in the way that we are using the same components, so making update will be fast and consistent across entire code base, and it's easier to do.
Cool. All right, we can move on to the next item. Actually, we're going to skip the second item and we'll just go to the third, because I think these are more important. So can we revisit pagination real quick?
That's Ilya's favorite topic every week, right?
I know, he's cringing right now. So I think where we, oh, does this show it? No, it doesn't. So where we ended up is showing 20 per page.
Yeah, sorry, so just 20 top level items per page.
Exactly. And once you expand, that doesn't necessarily count towards your 20 that are shown. One thing I want to show you, let me think. Actually, Harris had a suggestion, and I think, Harris, do you remember when you brought up
whenever you start a sentence with that, everybody just cringes.
I know, like, what did you say?
Harris had a suggestion. No,
but it was
again.
it was
you mean
it was a good
Andy?
suggestion.
The full pagination resolution?
Do you remember what issue that was?
It was I think it was in that issue somewhere.
The pagination.
Yeah. I may have, if you just scroll up and down, it's a really long thing. There.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry.
So this is just like not necessarily the UI for it, but the functionality that I would like to get out of pagination. So a more complete pagination solution. And the most important thing here is really trying to reconcile we talked about kind of an infinite scroll lazy load as being a really nice way for people to see more things but it was also very hard to reconcile that with the checkboxes. And also the checkboxes were very hard to reconcile on a small page. Because if you have like 100 things and 50 out of those you need to do import on, you would still need to like visit multiple pages, select from the top, select all or select some of that, and then go to the next page. And we don't have a great way of understanding if when you move to the next page, does your selection carry over? So did you select 20 and now you're going to the next page and you select another 20? Is it now 40 or is it 20? And in either one of those solutions is going to be hard. Like we're gonna have to pick one anyway, but it's not good because some users will assume that it carries over. Some users will not see it and assume that it's not carrying over. So we'll have to be really careful with that. What would really help a lot with alleviating that is being able to see larger pages. Like if people explicitly say, I have a big monitor, I can wait 5 seconds, whatever the trade-offs are, but I want to see 100 things instead of 20 because my total is 100 things. So if I can see everything, I can more easily pick and do bulk actions on it. So creating your own page size or picking your own page size is important. And it's a pattern that everybody who's doing good UX actually has. So I feel like that is the most important part of this is really the page size selector. And we would start with 20, but it will allow them to just go to like 50, 100, all, those would be like the options. And all, we may have a backend stopgap on all as well. It says like, well, all really cannot be more than 1,000 or whatever it is. Like we can have some kind of a limitation that we will describe and this close. If it returns 1,000, it would just say, okay, this is top 1,000. You can't have more than that. You will have to filter down to see all. But having that selector is really important in my mind, to be able to then do the bulk action where I select a lot of things and I do import a lot of things.
From what I understand from engineering, it is a very easily exploitable to create denial of service. I mean, when we request huge things of data, I believe this is exactly why every pagination in GitLab has a pretty strict limit, I believe, on 100 or whatever, everywhere where we paginate. Like I'm a bit confused with this straightforward approach, although I understand your needs. Theoretically, we could automate it on front-end side. Like if you request 1,000 items per page, I can potentially like load them in chunks of 100 or whatever. We will have the maximum limit from the backend perspective, but displaying 1,000, for example, table rows will create another performance issues on front end, which we might ignore like for the first time, but we will possibly need to address if we introduce such functionality.
Couldn't we have some kind of status on the page showing how much items were the user selected to avoid the huge pages?
Let me show you what Gmail does. So Gmail limits, I think it's 50 per page. So if I go ahead and select all, I get this banner letting them know you selected 50 out of that many. And then you can obviously go in and deselect or
can you select the whole page and go to the next page?
No.
Top right.
But I'm curious, I'd never noticed this before, so I'm going to click on it to see. Oh, okay, that's a select all. So
I'm curious if you go to the next page, the selection also continues.
Yeah, it will maintain selection. It does.
When you go to the next page in Gmail?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me try this. No, here, I'll show you. So if I select all and try and go to the next page, it doesn't carry over. So all the actions have to happen on a single page.
We cannot hear you, Ilya.
Oh, sorry, wrong button. I believe it maintains. So if you go forward and back, it should keep the selected checkboxes.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It works for me.
Ah, okay. I thought you were saying if we went to the next page, it would.
But it doesn't tell you that the 100 are already selected. Like right now, you're in a state where 100 is already selected and you have no clue. Like if you go forward one more, and now just select one more, not select all, just select one of these. Now you have selected 101, but it tells you one conversation selected.
Yes, and if you call action on, I believe only action on selected free will be performed. So the kind of performing actions just on per page basics, with the only exception when you select all across entire in that pop-up banner.
And that's going to be a problem for us. Like we already know that, like, there are going to be clients that are going to have thousands and thousands of projects that they're going to want to bulk migrate. And, if you have 4,000 projects and we make them do it 20 at a time, which is the maximum you could do, if you're going to pick some and then skip some, then that's still, 200 imports that you have to do one page at a time. Like that's the requirement that I'm trying to solve. So that is the problem that I'm trying to solve with having larger pages.
You can select one top level group. Got you. That will include all the projects in it.
I believe my understanding is that they're all top level groups. Like there's, thousands and thousands of top level groups.
Currently, but later on it won't be, right? Later on they will be able to select subgroups. But besides that, it's not because Gmail doesn't do that we cannot do, right? We could maintain the status between pages, can't we, Ilya?
For sure, we discussed with this opportunity with imports, and I was expecting to implement that one day the time will come.
I think we should do that, but I think we actually alleviate this problem a lot by showing 100 items, because you could do 100 at a time, or potentially you could do filtering to bring it down to just maybe 100 of less than 100 of the items that you can pick from, and then you select your 75 out of 100. Like, playing with 100 is much easier, and it's going to solve many more problems than playing with 20, because I believe there's probably some kind of a curve on, like, the more things you show, the less benefit you get out of it. But like on the low end of this, going from 20 to 40 is going to be eye-opening for a lot of people. It's going to be so much more helpful. So I think we can stay on the low end of this and then serve a huge number of people much better. So I think if we cannot do all, then maybe 100 or 200, whatever you said 100 was the top limit that we are allowed right now. Well, let's do that, because right now we had 20. So if we have a choice of 20, 50, 100, and that was your kind of a page size that you could pre-select, you could select from one of those three, that would still be way more helpful than having 20 only and no choice.
Just to be clear, I'm not against changing the size of the pages. I'm just against trying to show all the groups by once. As Ilya said, I think it can damage the usage of the backend. But I'm totally agree. I think the user should be able to select a different size and maybe a bigger size up to 100. It would be nice.
Yeah. So the question is really, what can we safely allow? Like, is 100 really 100 of issues? Maybe if you're doing filtering, or some table that's really huge, may be different than selecting 100 from a table of groups, which may be way smaller than number of issues. So I don't think that even the safety number is the same between the two. Like, maybe in the issues, you can't limit yourself to 100, but if you're selecting groups, maybe you can select 200 groups and never run into performance issues. So I don't know if that's something we can ask.
It's not performance, it's denial of service. So if you let the user do a request to a lot of data by once, they can abuse of that. So it's not only regarding performance, just to be clear.
Okay.
So it's probably the size of the response then that matters in that case.
Yeah, but I believe, just to make a check, that since we're actually requesting this list of group from a remote GitLab instance, which could potentially run older version, if we do not want to overcomplicate the backend, at least for now, as an iteration, we should probably stick to what currently our API allows. And if I remember correctly, the API is limited to 100 groups per page. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
that's right.
Any pagination is 100 tops, like no matter if it's groups or projects.
Okay. I think that's a fair starting point, fair iteration to where we would limit it to like 20 is a default. So we'll start with 20, but we will give them like 50 and all, or 50 and 100, sorry, as choices.
Yeah,
100 is the maximum we can ever show, and 50 is a good number in between to where you don't want to really fill your monitor with 100 things.
Yeah, sorry, since like Amanda said, this is my most loved topic in the last discussions. Let me summarize the action plan we have here. So what we are going to have is a UX, how we could want this Pagination thing to look like. What drop-down options should we have, and I don't remember, do we have the backend support right now for Pagination there? I believe it was there, or am I wrong?
It is there as far as as far as I know.
I think that that issue was closed just recently, actually, by George.
Yeah. So yeah, basically in that case, this is it. So we are implementing a default one per page pagination, and we should be good to go.
Feedback on the component would be to maybe see if we can stay away from the dropdown, given that it's really a radio choice of fixed number of things, 3. Dropdown requires 2 clicks, and we have plenty of space to just allow for the choice to just be shown there. Like as an example, Amanda, the illustration I gave has an example of what I'm talking about, which is a more direct user experience with 1 click fewer to select. And also more discoverable because you can actually tell what it says. You see there, the page selector, 5, 10, 20. Yeah, it's more discoverable. You see what your choices are without engaging the dropdown, and also you can select it with 1 click versus 2.
What does that do? I understand that the paging info and page navigator.
So the page size selector just changes how big the page is, how many items are per page. So if I click, 5 in this case shows only 5,
yeah.
right? If I click 10 people will show up. But it's a single click and it's more discoverable because the 3 choices are displayed there. I feel like it may be a better user experience as a kind of flow for the user than hiding it behind a drop-down, which normally is good when you're hiding a lot of choices, but we're not giving them a lot of choices. We're giving them 3 simple choices of
but
20, 50,
we still need to think about it, because for what I see on the screenshot, it is extremely unobvious for me that this 5, 10, and 20 are page size selector.
So we would need a label to the left of it.
Yes, at least.
That says page size. So the label to the left of it says page size, and then you have 3 clickable numbers similar to this, 20, 50, and 100, and 20 is selected in this case. So there's a selected state. 20 is selected, you see 20 items. You hit 50, now you see 50 items. That would be a...
Yeah, also I just checked the pajamas, and it seems we do not have the guidelines for the pagination. I mean, like for page size selectors there. So it seems like we could be the first to establish ones. So we kind of allow it to act on our own.
So Ilya, if you remember from last week, I was walking you through what Andy had done. So he's currently working on this, and yeah, we certainly can pioneer, I guess, this section. So should I, okay, so there's a lot of UX work that'll go into this, not a lot, but so next, Ilya, you would just need the final designs ready to go.
Yeah, kind of like how we would like to place, and where we would like to place the page navigator and page size selector. Like,
well, we have the navigator already, right? Is that the part that we already have? What
nope.
This?
Yeah, we have guidelines for this one.
Yeah, so that's that component there is just fine. So previous, next, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that component probably works.
Yeah, I don't hate the placement of both the pagination and the view per page. So I'll work on that, Ilya, and then get that to you as soon as I can. Any other comments about this? And I'll briefly touch on number 2, which I'd like to discuss more in detail next week, but essentially we're probably going to need some back-end folks to answer some questions. And it is just adding a progress area, real-time data, essentially figuring out what we can do here. Especially, I think it'll help our enterprise users who have thousands. So we'll hold off until next week to discuss that, but yeah, I think that's it. Does anyone have any final words?
Yeah, just a personal request. Ping me on this issue when there will be any progress there, because it might impact our pagination discussion we had right now.
Okay.
I mean, because if we start extracting like the current in progress things to the top, like we done in import projects, it will break the entire pagination flow.
Oh, I see. Where you move the success
Yes, to the top.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I like.
Yeah, just a fair
Yeah.
warning.
Yeah, no. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think that we can probably just continue iterating the way we have scheduled this. And then when we get there, we'll take into account what exists for pagination. And then if it has to change or not, like I wouldn't change our approach to pagination right now. I think we have a good approach. And
yeah,
because the other side is speculation. Like this other thing is very speculative right now, and we'll make it conform to what can be done eventually.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more next week about that. But other than that, that's it, y'all.
This was great. This was fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining, newbies. And
Thank you.
I'll see you later on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.